Hmm. Is everybody? Hmm. Is it a more reasonable time of the day, Carol, for you?
Try 5 a.m., David.
Oh, so the answer is no. I was hoping it would be a bit better, but
Think
yeah, how
you
brave of you
think
to come. Well done.
it seems like it's worth it to Carol.
Apparently, she knows all the fabulous people that are going to be here. So,
Can't get enough of my fill of Colleen and you this week, David. That must be it.
yeah. Okay. Well, and all right. Just sort of scanning the horizon here to see who's here. Um, Austin's described as an empty chair. That's good. All right. Well, welcome to our BCE. But Karen and I were reflect. Karen is our host, and we've been reflecting that we've been doing this for far longer than we remembered. I found a slide from one of the very early BCEs and from way back when. I think Stephanie and Michelle, you would remember these. And so it just was kind of a nice surprise to have that sort of tip of the hat to all that we've done in the BCE. And one of the things that I've always appreciated about the BCEs is it's always had kind of a life of its own. It sort of tells us when it wants things. And so one of the things it's clearly been telling me these last 3 or 4 months is it wants to do something different, but it doesn't know what it wants yet. So it's kind of in this formation phase. And so today's iteration of this is that um, I've had a really full couple of months, and I um, just realized I wasn't really in a place where I wanted to like put together yet another thing for us. And so I decided I'm going to do something different, which actually models this work quite well. And we're going to let you decide through the first half of the session what we should spend our time on to see what emerges in our conversations. And then we'll see where that takes us and if it gives us clues about what the BCE wants to become next. Okay. So, is there any, I think we got a couple of, Mary Jane, you and I talked earlier today. It's good to see you again. Is there anybody else who's new to us for the first time? Michelle, we can't hear you if you're wanting to speak.
I'm new. Can you
Excellent,
hear?
wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And what part of the world are you calling in from?
London.
Okay, wonderful. And what brought you here?
On the coaching course, I think it talks about narrative coaching, and I was curious, so I signed up.
Okay, great. All right. I think we got everybody else. And January, good to see you again. We haven't seen you for a little while. Hmm. Oops, you just put yourself back on mute if you wanted to speak.
Thank you. I appreciate noticing that I wasn't here.
Yes, great. All right. So I'm just going to put the slides up so we can sort of see the plan. So we've been exploring this idea, this sort of this one of the concepts in our work of structured emergence, um, and sort of thinking about this acronym around RISE, about sort of releasing ourselves into structured emergence, allowing ourselves to trust the environment, trust ourselves, sort of sense into what's wanting to happen. And through a series of conversations and events in this last week, I just decided I wanted to go a different direction for today. And I was on a call this morning with the leader of a project with EMCC that's using the 5 maturities to look at guidance for professional development. And she's a very, one of the things I like about her so much is she's a very sensitive person. And so she's really feels pain for people. So she's really quite involved in issues with refugees and Gaza and now Iran. And so I started to think about like when, when part of the discernment, the wisdom that comes with this work is maybe noticing when it's not time to rise. Maybe it's time to be quiet or be still or rest. And sometimes, ironically enough, we can take all these things about spiritual development so seriously that we forget its primary message of caring for and developing ourselves. And so I started thinking about what that might look like. And so I've come up with a practice for us. But it, of course, then the first thing I went back to is the very famous Yeats poem, which feels like it could have been written today, but I'm going to share it with you now. And yeah, so like I said, this could be in today's headlines. But what brought it to me in light of the BCE was how do humans respond to things that are so big and so dramatic and so all-encompassing at times? And I thought part of that is learning how to um, discern more carefully what we actually need and how we're actually doing, not for the sake of improving ourselves. That drifts into spiritual bypassing pretty quickly in some ways. It's more of what if I could just like surrender to be in this space. And so I want to explore that. And again, the questions that we're going to ask you during the meditation are questions I would like you to sit with for yourself. And that will help inform how we spend our last half an hour together to see if there's some themes that emerge that might want our attention about how do we manage the large energetic things in motion in the world at the moment, and how does we equip ourselves to be in that space, perhaps in some new ways. If at any point during any of this you have any questions or thoughts, you're always welcome to either raise your hand or put them in the chat box, and Karen will pick that up. But for now, I want to just share with you just some questions to bring into the practice. And so, Karen, once these come up, or even before, if you're super speedy, you can put them in the chat box for people. So this is for those of you who are new. This is a photograph we use often, and this is a phrase I've become quite attached to that I put together maybe a year or two ago. But it really speaks a lot to the work around allowing ourselves to be as present as possible rather than anticipating or planning or preparing so much, to allow ourselves to notice what is this moment asking of me? What is its curriculum for me? And so these are the questions. I'm gonna guide you through these questions, so you don't have to worry about remembering them. But I just want to share them with you now, just kind of prepare yourself, and then we'll move into a guided meditation. So these are the four. Oops, my mouse pad has become quite sensitive these days. I'm not quite sure why. So it starts with allowing ourselves to be conscious. So all you have to do is drive very far or walk very far or ride your bike very far, and you realize a lot of people don't even do very well on the first one. They're not being conscious at all. And so it's an invitation to just notice, what do you notice about your own level of presence right now, today? And we're not here to judge ourselves or other people, because then we stop noticing. We move to judging. But just to be aware of, you could say from 0 to 100 or whatever measure works for you, or what is my presence like right now? And just kind of notice that more deeply. And again, we'll guide you through that in a minute. The second piece is that when we can be have more personal capacity, we end up in the five maturities language, end up with more spiritual maturity. We can notice more truly and deeply what is. So this one is an invitation to explore. What do you notice about your attention? Where do you place your attention? Does your attention feel whole and clear? But just notice how, for many people in today's world, they're quite distracted most of the time and/or can't think of anything else to do but stare at their phone. And so, what do you notice about your attention? And again, these are all soft inquiries in the sense we're not judging them. And there's nothing to fix or improve here at all. It's just a noticing. The third one is that when we can notice the truth of what is, there's often an invitation. So, what is might be, I'm feeling really angry about something or someone. What is the invitation? Can I share my anger and still stay in a place of love or compassion? And this one I thought, what do you notice about your choices? Like, what are you choosing consciously or unconsciously as you move through your week? These are all in response to some invitation, the ding of your phone, the lure of chocolate in the shop, um, something on your TV, requests for help from people. But just notice kind of invitations and choices, kind of how are you navigating that space? And then the last one is in terms of responding to this moment as your curriculum, is being able to step into what's now emerged. And then this is what do you notice about your actions? Um, yeah. So if I give just you a concrete example, I'm increasingly been a morning person over my later years, but now I'm just aware because of all that's happening in my life that I have much less energy in the evening. So now I've got to attend to that because I don't want to take actions that require lots of concentration. Um, and so I don't step into those moments. I let them go till the next morning, which in the past I would not have done. I would have tried to push through, and now I don't. Um, so anything that you'd like to share or ask about this so far, and then I'm going to lead us in a guided meditation to set up your groups. But any reflections or questions you have at this point?
David, I've had a word swirling around me the last couple of days, and it's expectations, and it seems to fit around this as well.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes back to what we were saying the other day in in the end of the retreat, Carol, about permissions and obligations and yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. So great. So and that you might bring that word into your meditation, Carol, and see where that takes you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
David, I wonder if you can clarify for me what presence mean in your question.
Yeah. So, like when you go to a meeting or see someone and they clearly are not present. Their mind somewhere else, their heart is somewhere else. They're they're too busy, but they didn't want to tell you, and so you can feel it in that they don't feel very present to you. They don't feel very attentive. They don't feel very engaged. They don't even seem like they're there in body only often. Um, and so for me, when we are not in a very conscious place, we're not very present, which means we often don't even know or recognize how do we seem to ourselves, how do we seem to other people, how we're actually doing. This would be the heroic. Someone who's not conscious would be the person who's suffering, and when you ask them how they are, they say fine. They're not even present to themselves, let alone present to you with any honesty. And so the more present we can become to our actual self and state, the more we can help do that with others and the more conscious we end up becoming.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the question. And so there's not going to be any curriculum for you if you're not even in the moment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And Stephanie adds about the concept of flourish, to flourish in the curriculum, if that's the curriculum itself.
Yeah. And so part of it is when so the one of the hallmarks of our work, I believe, is that if one of your friends said, I just don't feel like I'm flourishing right now, but just kind of stalled out, many people in response would try to find some way to help them fix that. And we would not. We would do this. We would help them. The reason why, for many of our clients, their changes, or even for ourselves, the changes they begin don't complete, is because they were never really fully aware of what was true right now. So they don't even know where they're starting. It would be like if I were to say, I would just pick any of you and say, how do I get to Cleveland? But I have no idea where you are, and you have no idea where I am. So how are you going to answer that question? So we try to do a lot, like through things like this, to help us be more aware of where we're beginning. And I find that, ironically, I find, I mean, there's effort to change habits and behaviors, but I find that even noticing more deeply what's actually true right now is often more than 50% of the journey itself. And often things resolve themselves when we become more aware without judgment. Fiona, good to see you.
Hi, David. Nice to see you. What you just said really resonated with me because I find that, when we notice that somebody is not present and they're not maybe, or as you said, when somebody says, I'm not flourishing, and then we try to delve into how we can get them back into flourishing mode.
Yeah.
There is no appreciation, there's no acceptance in a greater societal way of those non-flourishing times.
Yeah.
And so we often suppress that, and we,
Mhm.
give it our best college try, if you will, and we just keep pushing down what really needs to come out.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that is the greater issue at the moment, where a lot of people are suppressing a lot, and they're suppressing because they feel they won't be seen, heard, valued, understood.
Yeah.
And if that were the case, if we were to do that more often in our families, in our friendships, in our work relationships, we may have different outcomes.
I would agree. Yeah. 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 So so the invitation is to be with each of these and not try to change them yet. Just let them be. And I feel like a lot of people are in the boat you described, Fiona, of I think they're secretly afraid. They're worried, they're anxious, they're angry, they're lots of things, and they don't know where to go. Yeah, and so I've just been thinking that's part of what prompted this, when I was just lamenting yesterday about how little humans learn from history, but keep repeating it. And so I was feeling sad for the people in Tehran, and just thought I just wanted to step back and, in the context of our work, and say, what does that mean, and what are we not paying enough attention to? And I just feel like, to your point, Fiona, there's just so much that's being crushed, buried, and it comes out often in not really good ways, and people who don't have emotional or regulatory capacity to manage that often act out. So, all right. So on that happy note, um, let's go flourish, okay? So what I'd like you to do, yes, I heard a voice. No, I imagined I heard a voice. So every time we meet, we have some version of this, but I've been thinking about this more, just experimenting with this idea of this process is developmental meditation. And we're developing ourselves through meditation. And so we focus a lot on our breath. And so I think we used this one last time, but it was simple and I liked it and I want to use it here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through those 4 questions. And I'm going to invite you into, as I'm asking you that question, to first intentionally breathe out. So oftentimes we're not aware of what's happening because we're holding our breath in some fashion, or breathing up in our throat. And I was sharing with the group yesterday that we fail to understand. We think of our lungs as that which breathes us. The lungs are just instruments for air. It's our diaphragm and our solar plexus that actually breathe us in a way. So when you breathe out, I feel like we relax some, which I think gives us more access to our inner awareness. And as we breathe in, like what's wanting to arise or to awaken in us. And so I'm just gonna ask you to hold the question that I'm giving you for each. I'll give you some rounds for each of the questions. And it's not a hunt for anything. It's not a destination or a linear path. It's just if you sit with the question and breathe out and breathe in and focus on what am I aware of maybe that I wasn't a few minutes ago, and what does that awaken in me? Now that I've awakened that, and I breathe out, what am I aware of now? And just see where you arrive. If at some point in one of the questions you get to something that feels important to you, just stop, write something down that helps you remember, and then pick up again when we get on to the next question. Um, so, um, yeah, okay, all good? All right. So if you would just find a comfortable position for yourself, we will dive in. And one of the things I appreciate about this process is there's no special way to breathe. So in the beginning, just allow yourself to breathe and notice how that's going. If you want, you can wiggle your hips and your back to see if there's anything that might be a bit tight, to see if you might stretch a minute and loosen it to allow more air. If in this moment you notice you're not very aware of your breathing, you might just put your hand on your belly. It should move when you breathe. If it doesn't, you might want to change that. So to allow the diaphragm to be strong and relaxed, strong and relaxed. And with your next exhale, I'd like you just to inquire, what are you noticing about your presence right now, today? And on your next exhale, ask yourself that again. What do you notice about your presence? And what, if anything, does this help you become more aware of? It might be an incident or a relationship or a pattern or just a momentary awareness. I'd like you to bring that awareness into your in-breath. As you breathe in the next time, to carry that awareness with you. What might that awaken in you that was asleep before or not available? And you can breathe out and breathe in again to see where that takes you into further awakening. What are you noticing now about your presence? And whatever you discovered is just fine. And I would like you to bring that with you into the next practice, to notice what is. As you breathe out, just pay attention. Where is my attention? How is my attention? And as you breathe in, see if there's any new awareness comes, either what you attend to a lot or what you attend to not very much. Just an inquiry about your attention. Again, on your next in-breath, just bring that awareness to see what it might awaken in you. You might discover your attention is really scattered and it's really hard to focus. Just notice that. Hold that lightly. So one more time, just breathe out and in, seeing what you're noticing now about your attention. And when you're ready, on your next out breath, what is the invitation for you here, for yourself? What are you discovering? What are you being asked to become aware of and awaken into yourself? And what you often run into in this space is, what do you notice about your choices? Wherever and however you are right now is a result of your choices. So what do your choices tell you about yourself? And with your next exhale, see if you're getting any awareness about your choices that might tell you something. And if you were to pay attention with your in-breath to that awareness, what might awaken in you? So many of our choices are not conscious, are not often conscious to us. This is an invitation to make them more conscious. With your next out breath, become aware. Do you feel any new energy arising in you in response to the invitation that might inform or enable you to make new choices? What's bubbling up? Now for our last one. With your next out breath, I'd like you to become aware of what feels different to you now than when you started. Are you noticing new things? What are you noticing is emerging, but particularly around your actions? What do you notice about what you do? What do your actions tell you about your choices and your attention and your presence? So as you breathe out, are you getting a sense of awareness of your curriculum for right now? Are you willing to appreciate it may not be the curriculum you want or like, but it is. You are here now. And what does this awaken in you that might inform new actions, new choices, new attention, and new presence? And as we prepare to end the meditation, maybe just scan your body again and see if there's anything that's left unsaid that wants to be said or heard right now. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. And if you would like, take a couple of minutes to resettle yourself. If you want to take any notes, you can. And then, Karen, if you could put people into breakout rooms of groups of 2 or 3, that would be fabulous for 30 minutes. Not, probably 32 by the time they get done writing and we start the breakout rooms. Mm. Just let me know when you're ready, Karen. I'll give them a final instruction. Okay. So this is what I'd like to invite you to imagine you're this woman on the beach and you're standing on one leg. And by that I mean, this is not an opportunity for speeches. So I'm going to invite you to speak plainly to how and where you are now, but I want you to be really present, attentive, and choiceful and agentic in deciding what you're going to choose to tell. There may be a temptation for some to tell everything. Again, that will take you far away from the experience you just had. What is the fewest words you can use to speak plainly to where you are? It could be one sentence, and then you're silent. It could be whatever you need, but this is not a chance to tell them everything, but a chance for you to hear yourself speak out loud what feels true to you now. Okay? And so this will give 10 minutes for each person, so you have plenty of time to be with each other, and please make sure that you manage your time so everybody has a chance to speak. Yeah.
David, rooms 5 and 6, folks, 5 and 6, I just have 2 people in them, so you have even more time.
And would you like to join a room, Karen?
Well, there was always something that comes up, so I'll stay back just to make
I have
sure.
to stay anyways because I'm the host. So if you'd
Oh.
like to join a room, you should.
Okay, I'll join a room, sure. And if that's the case, then let me just rearrange 2 things and I will,
Okay.
make that happen then.
Here we go. All
Actually,
set?
worked out perfectly for me not to. So, all right,
Excellent.
ready?
Yes.
We'll see everybody soon. When you just have time together, it's beautiful.
There they are. Hey, Lenny. So I'm curious what you discovered in your conversations.
Are you asking me specifically?
Yes, Lenny. And only you.
Goodness.
You have to
I'll have to.
know. If you had something to share, we'd love to hear it. If not, that's okay too.
We had an interesting conversation that started on one level and went to many other levels. That was with Stephanie and Sigrid. And I would say, what I would want to say about it is that the conversation really peeled away a lot more layers and revealed that whatever came up in the meditation for each of us, there's a lot more to explore and be curious about and keep discovering. So I want to thank both of them.
Wonderful. How about in other groups? Fiona.
I know that I have grown a lot having worked with you now for, I don't know what, we've been together, 3-4 years
Yes.
before I follow your work. But when I can recognize and not punish myself for not being able to be fully present with your work today, I said to the ladies that while I was, I believe, certainly very engaged and very present while you were teaching and mentoring, when it came to the actual meditation, the monkeys in my mind took over. Right? And there would have been a time 4 or 5 years ago where I punished myself for doing those, right? And now it's a case of I'm recognizing it and I'm allowing myself some grace, because when I meditate on a daily basis, I don't get it right or perfect every day. And you're right, there is a lot going on. And, for one of the other ladies, it was like, oh no, that was completely different for me. I was like fully present in them. We're all so different and we all have different things going on in our life. We just need to give ourselves some grace. I think it's through your work that I've been able to do that more and more. So again, thank you, David.
You're welcome. Yeah, if I think back to the beginning, you have more equanimity now than when I first met you.
Yes.
I remember that, yeah.
Are you telling me I was crazy back then? Hey, call the monkey what you will, right? But thank you. Again, it was very powerful.
Yeah. Nikki.
Hello. Wow, actually, it was so deep and rich. I don't even know where to start, but we were across the whole globe from Australia, America, and England, where I am. But I also, so I had monkeys in my mind as well. I felt myself less present by the end of the meditation, but it was a fantastic moment to find my curriculum as a result of expressing that with our group. And I think I was striving to get to that really present state. So I was up in my mind rather than in my body. And that was a great learning, like how I'm approaching anything with expectation as well, that, moving through each stage, you know, the questions, I think you were asking some questions and I was metabolizing them, but really trying to answer them. And so it was getting very loud, loud over here.
The monkey's like,
But
me, pick me, pick me.
yeah, exactly. So it was a fascinating, I'm not going to say experiment, but for me, a fascinating experience. And I felt myself removed from it because I was striving at it. And so I landed on some, in our discussion, some self-soothing activities. Yeah. Thank you.
I was reflecting, Nikki, I don't often, even now after all these decades, I still feel self-conscious listening to myself or watching myself on film. And I was listening to a recording. I think it might have been, for those of you who are part of the retreat, it might have been one of the retreat recordings. I wanted to hear how something came across. And I thought, wow, who's this old tired man talking? Then I go, wait, that's me. And it was this whole like, oh, that's what I'm sounding like now. That's really interesting. And to your point, I went to this huge judgment, like, oh, that's not gonna. And then I started to reflect. I thought, I think it's actually sounding better. Because yeah, I don't know. We rush to these stories, and as I was telling the people in the retreat that we're just about to finish up, I was been reading this book about the differences between Eastern and Western thinking and how it got to be that way. And I realized that most of my work has never been very Western. I don't do goals, plans, linear paths. I think only in cycles. And one of the things the West does well is to label things. It's very, which sometimes can be very handy. But I find in some of the things you all have shared so far, sometimes it gets us in trouble because then we stop paying attention. We're so busy caught up in the label of whether we like it or don't like it or whatever. And if we just let it be what it is, and I thought, oh, note to self, I might need to rest more. Note to self, I have a birthday coming up. There's a lot of big numbers in that birthday. And yeah, and so I think it's just this, and I think there's a sense of grace in this to just keep going, just keep going back and forth with the breath. Oh, there it goes. And you see your mind going racing off with the monkeys. Let's go party. No, wait. Yeah. It's an ongoing, yeah. I used to try to get all the monkeys to kind of sing together, but that was even more ridiculous. So now I just like look at them, throw them a few bananas, and get on with my day. Yeah. Michelle,
Good morning.
good morning.
Actually, I think it was 5:30 in the morning when the meditation started. So as I was sitting in, my body was like, wake up, wake up, wake up. We're about to do something. Anyway, the most interesting thing that came through, the word that came through right to the end was content. And whatever that meaning actually means, and we'll drop in a lot more later, was and it was a little lovely reunion with Helen. So great because we were in the other retreat before this retreat.
Yeah.
And was just sitting in the presence of and I'll bring in Colleen's word, and she had to step out, the ebb and flow of receiving and being present to when I was writing my notes down, like the stream of it. And so it's freezing here, David, freezing. So all I could feel was the freezing on me and nothing else. And I'm like, I'm freezing up here, like as if I could even do anything, like I'm going through this meditation. Anyway, I think as the ebb and flow happened, the warmth of the back of me and my feet just started. So it was such a beautiful experience just to be present to that receiving. And then I was trying to look at the rise when it's not yet time to rise, and yeah, is it a rising? Is it a receiving? Anyway, so thank you. Content came through.
Great.
Yeah.
And Fiona, she's in the Blue Mountains outside of Sydney. Not very high, but it can get quite cold up there.
Yeah, in the valley.
in the valley,
Yeah.
because all the cold just sinks right to the bottom there, right?
Where
How
everything
about
gets
Michelle's house?
cold.
The whole of Sydney's cold. She hasn't got a mortgage on it, okay?
Yeah, okay. I hear you, Carol. Um, yeah.
So, David, on a more serious note to do with this, one of the things I shared in our group was when you said what's woken up in you, the word I got was dormant, not quite the word I was expecting.
Okay. And what do you make of it now?
Well, as I said, shared with the ladies, they call me the definitions queen, so I had to look up the formal definition of the word dormant just because.
Mhm.
And also that alongside your comment of maybe the curriculum you're having now isn't necessarily the one you want. There was a bit like there's a bit of a quiet going on here. I mean, yes, I'm taking off overseas in a week's time, but there's a bit of a quiet going on here, and maybe just accept that that's where you're at the minute, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yes, I wasn't expecting the word dormant when you said what's waking up in you. Just saying.
Yeah. I was talking to Karen while you all went into your rooms about the mystery of change, and I've been sort of musing about this part of myself that seems to want some more attention, but I didn't really think I was making any effort. Really wasn't thinking about it or attempting to be different, and then things started coming towards me from the world as if I'd made that change. And I said, "Wait, how's this happening?" So of course, and then which is then bringing that out of me. And I said, "No, I didn't want that, and I didn't. That's not what I chose." And here it's coming anyways. And I just think so somehow yeah, it's all connected in this piece. And yeah, when we put labels, it cuts us off from the wholeness of everything that we're connected to, and says it's only this, and which can be very, very helpful. But in some ways, I think it often gets in our way. Um, so we have about 10 more. Oh, Fiona again. She's back.
Sorry, I just wanted
No
to,
worries.
you brought up the topic of labels, and it's
Yeah.
lately become a little bit of a passion topic for me.
Hmm.
I wrote down that labels are not what we think things are. We're
Hmm.
using them. What did I write here? What you use, labels are what you use for you to understand, not what you think I am.
Hmm.
Right? So I think labels are very simplistic gestures that don't really reflect what's truly perhaps going on. I'm still kind of munching on that one right now, but we throw labels around. If I were to call somebody something, that would be for me to be able to make sense of it, or for me to be
Yeah.
able to understand it, but it's not truly a reflection of what's going on
Right.
or with that person.
They're more a reflection of our own world, not theirs.
Right.
So
Yeah.
one person's moodiness would be another person's expressiveness. Right. So we've got about 10 more minutes. So I just want to use some time. So we have this process we've been using for some time, and I'm happy to keep using it. But as we sort of think about the topic today of not rising, of just remaining present to, can we allow ourselves to feel things and be with things without trying to change them? What about this would be helpful to you? If we had a retreat that was, not a retreat, but a BCE that was designed for you where you're at in your journey at the moment, what would you want us to be talking about that might help you find some sense of sanity and solace and whatever else in the times that we're in? Like, what are you holding or carrying or notice yourself worrying about that we might pay some attention to? Lenny.
Yeah, this came up in our small group. Growing up in the 60s, I was enculturated with the imperative of making a difference. And in the current times, feeling like even though I am doing some things, it's not enough. So that's a topic. What's enough? How do we know it's when something's enough? And as you used to say, and probably still do, recognizing and really owning that there are some things that are not ours to do.
Mm.
I have so much resistance to that. I feel like I'm always supposed to be making a difference. And when I am, I notice that I'm not thinking about making a difference. I'm just in relationship.
Yeah.
So I'll put that out there, see if anybody else is interested in the topic.
Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, Lenny, I'm just gonna add, I was always a Margaret Mead lover of if not me, then who, but that doesn't, you know, you have to rethink that one.
There you go.
and this is where my fascination, because I was the same way in that period of life. But we did make some changes. But that's why I'm finding the Eastern philosophy, thinking in circles, much more useful. Than lines, because then we have this attachment to, oh, we made progress, therefore we were successful in making a difference. But yeah, and but I think it's a big question. It's an important question, and it's one that animates lots of us, and so I would be happy to explore that. Yeah.
I would concur with Lenny insofar as what's enough, or I
Mhm.
know I'm enough, but, right? There's always the but. And I think, David, the power of the BCE is coming together to become regrounded, to be
Mhm.
reminded, just to pause, reflect before off we go, right? And your work does that beautifully each and
Mm.
every time. So
Thank you.
I think what is interesting for me is to hear what your experiences are.
Mm.
Um, the student is ready, or no, what is it? Yeah.
When the student's ready, the teacher comes along.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. You have been my teacher for many years, and I've learned so much from you, not in so much of what you're sharing on the screen, oftentimes the stories that you tell.
Mm. Yeah.
You're traveling, you're seeing the world as we are as well. What are your tips, tricks, wise words of wisdom sharing with us this month?
Mm.
That sort of
Mhm.
fits in with what I've been thinking, David, around how do we make sense of the world we're in? How do we make sense of what's going on, and what are the ways it happens, and how does that help us? It sort of all seems to fit together to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, David, what came up for me was finding peace through transitions.
Say that again.
Finding peace through transitions.
Yeah.
And I think what is enough is part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to the slides from I think one of the very first ID programs when we had the pictures of everything matters, nothing matters, and this matters, and
Yeah.
all of which are true at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
David, does some of this tap into your ideas on thresholds and how we navigate thresholds?
I think so. What do you mean by that?
Well, one of the things that stuck with me from the Guiding Light retreat is the comment, or me understanding, that you can cross thresholds a number of times. I always had this thing, it's like you cross a bridge and that's it. But the fact is
Yeah.
that's not it. You can cross it, and you can cross in many different ways. So I think this understanding of thresholds, what they are, the significance of them, and that you can navigate them more than once, it seems to fit into some of that. That's my understanding, unless I've gone off track somewhere, which is
No,
possible.
I mean, in traditional cultures, you cross to the rite of passage once, like from boy to man, or girl to woman, or alive to dead, or single to married. So there are decisive points where that you can't go back, or you can, but but I think developmentally, again, this is where I think in terms of cycles. If you live long enough, you keep bumping into the same crap in yourself again and again and again. It softens, it's kinder to us. It maybe isn't quite so annoying to other people, but and you come back around to that threshold again. Oh, it's still here, right? And I used to, and yes, we can make transformative changes, although not nearly as often as coaches think, but that can happen, and there are big shifts people make, like to stop drinking or to, whatever, deal with their anger. We had one of our participants in the retreat yesterday was on a trip back to where he was from, and he noticed he came back to that place as a completely different person as a result of the work he'd done in the programs. And you can see it on him. It doesn't, that part of him is not there anymore. But I think part of it is just realizing we have this fantasy that we should arrive at some place and be done. And I like the idea of arriving someplace and being at peace. I like when someone said that. And
David, before we go, might you talk about the Guiding Lights retreats that?
Yeah. So we've just about to finish up. We're celebrating next week, the finishing of the 6-month retreat, and I think it's been a fabulous time. And we're bringing the 5 maturities work and all the work on things like grief and attachment theory and stuff to look at how do we understand thresholds in a different way, developmentally, not literally. Yeah, and so we're starting a new cohort in July. So if that interests you, let's see who's on the call. So Michelle's been there, Carol's been there, Shayla's been there. Yes. So you can ask any of them, they'd be happy to share. But yeah, it's a good, and for me, somebody asked about what so we have a wonderful narrative coaching team that's taking over that program. And Christopher and our community is helping me build out a completely different way of teaching ID. But my future is what we're doing right here, is around the 5 maturities and the development of humans. That's where I'm going to spend the rest of my work life. Yeah. So it's
And David, you have a Q&As coming up. People.
yeah. So we've got some more. We actually have 1.5 an hour.
Yes.
But we've got some more coming up. They're all on the website for the Guiding Lights retreat, and yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Michelle.
Can I just also add just my learnings from both retreats, the one earlier than this one. What came to mind was being in relationship with certain words that come through. The latest word outside of the retreat was becoming, and what that would be if we sat in that. And if I look back at my journal, the amount of words that would drop in as we go through the retreat that I wouldn't have seen before, and taking some time to look at that is maybe some ideas. And the other thing is like movement. I went to one of your other retreats a couple of years ago, and we did a lot more movement.
Yes.
And that changes the whole you, I believe, me. So anyway, I just thought I'd add that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for marvelously hosting as always, Karen, and thank you all for coming. And we'll see you next month if you want to come back and join us again. Be great.
Be well. Good to see you, Karen.
Take good care. Wonderful to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.